Hello and welcome to Off My Shelves, and this episode we're going to be looking at the Mermaid Saga Volume 1 and 2 by Rumiko Takahashi, and yeah, let's get underway. So this is a fabulous book. I really can't figure this one up enough, and it was a recommendation from Omar at Near Mint Condition. So if you've never watched Near Mint Condition, get over there and watch Omar. He's fabulous. And yeah, this was one of the best manga books that I've read in quite a long time. But first and foremost, Volume 1 and Volume 2 are all that exists of this manga series, and so it's really a nice, easy manga series to get into, because if you're anything like me, looking at series like One Piece and lots of others, they got so many volumes they seem almost impenetrable sometimes. So this is a lovely, easy, accessible manga. I think it was originally released in the 80s. Good production quality, the paper quality is fabulous. Now the books themselves follow two main characters for the most part, Mana and Yuta. Now when you're introduced to this world in the first story, you discover both of those characters, and they're both in different situations. Yuta is travelling and searching, and Mana is a prisoner on this very remote island that Yuta is trying to get to. The premise of Mermaid Saga is that mermaids exist, and they're this mythical creature that if you eat the flesh of a mermaid, one of three things will happen. Either you die because it's poisonous, you turn into what's called a lost soul, this deformed, hideous creature, or you become immortal and you can survive anything apart from being beheaded. The book starts with Yuta trying to track down a mermaid, and as the story goes on, you realise quite early on that he's trying to track a mermaid down because he himself has tasted mermaid flesh hundreds of years before the book starts, which we'll get to in a second. But when he tasted mermaid flesh, he became immortal, and is now on the search to try and find a mermaid because he doesn't want to be immortal. He doesn't want to die either. He just wants to live a normal, natural life. He wants to start growing old, but he's kind of stuck at the age he is, and he can't die. And so he wants a normal life. And he's been told that if he finds a mermaid, then maybe they can help him out. And he's finally led to this island where Mana is being kept prisoner. And without spoiling too much, because I wouldn't want to spoil the first story for you because it's such a good one, Mana is being kept prisoner for a very specific reason, really, and it's to help prolong the life and the longevity of the people in this village where she's being held captive. But Yuta sets her free, and they both go on adventures then. So the first story of this is basically laying down the groundwork, the rules of what the mermaid's flesh does, what mermaids are, what the world is, and it starts off Yuta and Mana going off on adventures to try and find a way to live normal lives. And one of the things I love most about this book is it's very kind of episodic in terms of when one story finishes, you basically end it there and you don't go back to the characters that are featured in there massively. You start off with Mana and Yuta in a different location, in a different place with a different set of people again. They're basically wandering around Japan and trying to find things to help them live normally. And another good thing about it is that it does bounce back and forth between Yuta's life. So you go back a couple of hundred years and just have a backstory of Yuta, because he very much is the main focus of both of these books, and you experience some of the past he has had and some of the experiences he has had over the hundreds of years since he's been alive. And every story catches up with the two main characters when they're coming across something connected with mermaids and immortality or mermaid flesh. And what I mean by that is at the start of each story there's clearly a progression in both characters. Maybe they've got a new job, maybe they've moved to a place, they've got different clothes, they look slightly older, they're talking like they know each other more. So there's things going on that you don't necessarily see. The story only returns back to them when they're actually investigating or being pulled into this world of mermaid flesh and immortality once more. And that was really good because it kind of cut out a lot of bump, really, and you got really interesting stories that just pushed forward these legends and this interesting history of mermaid flesh, and seeing how people were desiring it and wanting immortality, how people were using and abusing the power and the strength, how people were just being monstrous in many ways, really. I would say it's very similar in terms of books like Hellboy and things like that, in terms of it's got lots of horror aspects to it. So there's lots of kind of incidents where Mana or Yuta are being killed. Even though they can't die, they get beaten up and pushed a lot, really, as well do other certain characters as well. But the art in it is absolutely fabulous. As you can see, the story and the art are done all by the same person, and she's done many different mangas over the years, as I understand it. But this, for me, the art is so consistent, classic kind of manga art style. There's nothing to dislike about it. Oh, it only gets more interesting and better. The panel layout is very dynamic in most of the books as well, and the stories are just fabulous. They're great little snapshots of Mana and Yuta finding out more and more about this legend of mermaid flesh, really. Volume 2 carries on in very much the same way, and this, if anything, the stories kind of raise up a level, really, and get a little bit more freaky, a little bit more intense. And my favourite story actually starts off in book 2, which is called The Mermaid Saga, and this story is fabulous because it takes you off guard slightly, and a lot of this book does, really, because a lot of the people who seemingly are nice and normal turn out to be absolutely crazy, and you don't see it coming. And Mermaid Saga is a perfect example of that. You don't see it coming until it's screaming right in your face. And in one point you get a glimpse of a very freaky Fiji mermaid, and if anyone who is familiar with P.T. Barnum and all that, you'll know what a Fiji mermaid is. But it's not a pretty thing, definitely, but you come across it, and again, it's just a really good, well done book. It's super well paced. My only negative would be is you don't get enough of Mana. The character of Mana isn't fleshed out as much as Yuta. He is fleshed out really in depth, and again, because of his age, it goes back in time, but you also, in doing that, you leave Mana behind, and so for an entire story arc sometimes she's not involved in the slightest. So that's the only negative, is I would have liked more of her, because her character arc seemed like quite a nice progression. It was going somewhere that seemed interesting, but you never quite got enough of her, really. But outside of that, it's a real strong read. And I remember a comment made on one of my haul videos about the Zelda manga by Phil at Phil's Nerdiverse, which again is a great channel that you should go and check out. And he was asking about gateways into manga, about this and that, and I think this is one of the most perfect ways to get into the manga form, really, because the style is classic manga anime style. It's very easy to read, it's interesting, and again, it's only 2 volumes. Once you've got these 2 volumes in place, that's all the story that there is. But I guarantee you that by the time you get to the end of volume 2, you wish there was a volume 3, and you wouldn't mind if there was a volume 4 as well, because it is really good. But I hope you've enjoyed having a quick look at Mermaid Saga with me anyway, and thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.